Good evening. We have a very special evening ahead of us. This is one of two major things that we are doing to celebrate our 40th anniversary. It's quite remarkable that here we are, flourishing 40 years after the school was founded. In 1958, this is going to be the history of the school in less than 1 minute. In 1958, the New Jersey Society of Architects decided that there should be a public school of architecture, and they started to lobby the state legislature with absolutely no effect. In 72, the same group decided that it might help to have the NSA being joined by the AIA, and together they lobbied. They went to Rutgers first and said, would you like a school of architecture? And they said, let us think about it. So they thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And this committee got rather sick of it, and they went to NCE, the Newark College of Engineering, and said, would you like a school of architecture? And they said, we never thought about that, sure. And so in 1973, there was a vote by the state legislature that established the School of Architecture here. And that was the start not only of our college, but it was also the start of NJIT, because NCE could no longer call itself NCE, because there was this thing called architecture that they had to also incorporate, and so they became NJIT. And then in September of the same year, this happened, as you probably know, in March, the state legislature, March 16th in 73, and part of their resolution read as follows: resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Newark College of Engineering is hereby authorized to develop a school of architecture located in Newark and utilizing the full resources of Newark College of Engineering and of Rutgers, the state university. And so here we are. They then hired a dean, Harlan Thompson, and he was hired September of the same year. He was given an administrative assistant and 2 work-study students, and with that he started the school. And in 74, they started admitting students, and they had a first class of 240 students, from nothing to 240, which is pretty amazing. So this happened very quickly, and he then hired a bunch of faculty members. Some of them are still here, and there's been an ongoing argument who was hired first. I have never been able to determine who it was. I don't really care, they care. So you'll find some people who will tell you that they were the first to be hired. Just say yes. And then in 79, Harlan Thompson stepped down, and he was replaced by Barry Jackson, who will be here. Is he here yet? He will be here tonight. He was acting dean for a year or so, and then Sandy Greenfield was appointed in 1981. And we tried to get him to come here. He was considering coming here. He's 87, and he doesn't quite feel up to it in this cold weather to make it down here and back again. So he extends his warmest regards to everybody, and congratulations to us all. And he's very sorry not to be able to be with us. But it was a really delightful note from him. And again, for a while, we thought he might come. And then in 91, I became dean, and I just realized that is before some of you were born, which is kind of an odd thought. Nevertheless, here we are. So what I really want to do tonight is to thank the faculty, past and present, who have got us to this point. It's a remarkable achievement. We have wonderful students. I think the thing that keeps us all here is our students and our student successes. We derive great pleasure from it. And it's really, we can look back with some satisfaction and realize that we have graduated approximately 4,000 students. And if you go to almost any office in New Jersey now, there'll be several graduates from this school, which is amazing. What's happened in the last 20 years is that we have grown very much. We're over 1,000 strong at this point. We have 2 schools, the School of Architecture, which is led by Darius Sollohub, who's sitting right here. You'll hear from him later. And then we have a new School of Art and Design, which is led by Glenn Goldman, who's sitting in the front there. And you will see him as a very young man in these photographs. Maybe you can recognize him. So at this point, I would like to go to why we're in this room at this time, which is to go to the think pieces. The think pieces is something we tried last year, and I thought it was very useful. The whole notion is that it would be interesting for somebody's colleagues and students to hear what faculty members are thinking about right now, not what they did 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. What do they think? What's occupying their thoughts right now? What are they passionate about at this very moment? So the importance of that is to hear from 5 of your faculty members about the kinds of things that they're going to be thinking about for the next year or so. So this is both present and looking into the future, and this is not a sort of visual CV. We're trying to avoid that. Now, it's going to be a terrible process for our speakers because I'll be sitting there and I'm going to be extraordinarily rude. You all know I can be rude, but I'm going to be extraordinarily rude because after 10 minutes is up, my little phone will make a nasty noise, and I will make a nasty noise, and that means it's time to stop. So I think 10 minutes is not very much time, but let's do the best we can. So I would like to have you all look at your program rather than getting a long introduction for each speaker. We don't have the time, so it tells you who they are, and I will just get right to it. So the first speaker tonight is a new faculty member, new to us, who hails from Yale. That sounds like the beginning of a limerick. And
don't finish it.
So, Keith, would you like to start? Thank you.
10 minutes on the clock. Thank you, Urs. Thank you, everyone, for letting me bend your ear for 10 minutes. I'm actually going to try not to say a lot, but bang through quite a few images, and just set us thinking about this topic, which I've been thinking about for a couple of years now, but it's still current in my process. But I had been thinking, or still thinking, about houses and American houses and how we live as Americans for a long time now. I was at Rice before I was at Yale, so I was right in the thick of sort of the American suburban metropolitan future. And I'm going to begin and end with Rainer Banham. So this is from Utopia in '79. Banham says, I think wisely, utopias notoriously are idealized past masquerading as ideal futures. To just give you 3 slides that bring you up to date with my thinking, I started looking at the production of American houses and the sale of American houses when I was in Houston. This is David Weekley Court. This is behind a big box superstore that sells houses. So this is a cul-de-sac of 3 houses with no cars in front, no possibility of cars in front. I went from that, and I wrote about that, to trying to do a kind of serious architectural analysis of these houses, to not sort of just allow myself to react, as most of us do as architects and designers, sort of negatively to the aesthetics of these houses, but to figure out how they work, how they function as designed artifacts. And that led to this sort of identification of 6 types of plans in the builder arsenal by which they sort of scale up the houses and engender desire. for these products. Then things started to get a little bit weird. I was asked to write a piece for Perspecta on what I was doing, and I'm sort of a notorious thief or cribber, maybe is a better way to do it. So I decided I would rewrite a Rem Koolhaas essay called Typical Plan, and I wrote an essay called Atypical Plan, which I executed by essentially redacting Koolhaas's text and inserting new text. And then they said, but there's no pictures. And I said, okay, well, what can I do to make a picture? And part of my rewriting of the Koolhaas text was really describing the way in which all of our single-family detached houses are actually an aggregate financial unit, as we now are very well aware. And so I thought I would take these plans that I was analyzing and actually try to produce that aggregate in real time, or in real space, well, virtual space. And I'm a big Smithson's fan, Team 10 fan, so I thought, well, I'll make like a matte suburb. And so all the houses are linked. And I still haven't done anything with this since then, but I'm still thinking about it. And then Freedom Land, which is really going to be the big chunk of this talk, which is an ongoing project. I was asked by the editors of 306090. I'm very sort of responsive designer or thinker in some ways. And they said, the housing bubble has burst. What are we going to do as architects? Can we design better houses? And I said, it's kind of absurd to imagine the design of a better house as solving the housing crisis. But I've got all these houses that have been designed, and they do some things pretty well, and people like them, and people buy them. What if I design a city with these houses? And that's Freedom Land, and it's tongue not quite firmly planted in cheek, Utopia of American houses. And it sort of has its origins in the notion that sort of all American settlements are utopian, going back to the beginning. This is a project by Robert Montgomery, an Englishman who would never come to America, but had a sort of brief, the king had granted him rights to an area in what is now Georgia, it then was called South Carolina. And he developed this plan, wrote a 200-page discourse on the Margravate of Azelia, and did this drawing, which is one of the earliest sort of grids planted in North America. And I'm going to read just a little quote from him, from the discourse, just to set the tone of my work. So this is him in 1717. Neither would we have thought it a labor so tedious as 'tis generally fancied to establish in this manner a colony, which may become not only an advantage, but a glory to the nation. We have prospects before us most attractive and unprecedented in the three tempting points: wealth, safety, and liberty. Remember liberty. Benefits like these can never fail of drawing numbers of inhabitants from every corner, and men once got together, 'tis as easy to dispose them regularly and with due regard to order, beauty, and the comforts of society, as to leave them to the folly of fixing at random and destroying their interest by indulging their humor. So that we have more than ordinary cause to expect that in a very short time we should be able to present the solid life itself, as we now give the shadow only in the following explanation. I'm going to jump out of this very quickly. And this is about 2 minutes of video. Okay, I'm going to jump out of that because I'm already getting signals from my boss. And I am literally going to just blow through a bunch of slides here. And what you're going to see, there are going to be little clips where you're going to see other utopias. And then, so Frank Lloyd Wright, and we just basically went across 200 years from 1717 to 1932. These we've seen, where we began, and the utopias that I'm referencing are folded into Freedom Land. One thing I've started doing recently now is doing these drawings, actually like trying to picture, people said, what does it look like? What does it look like? It might look like that. And I want to very quickly get to, 10 minutes goes very fast. So, you know, life in Freedom Land, it is an idealized past in some way. I don't know if this is anyone's ideal, though. But these are literally all just these houses aggregated to produce these different figures. And I've now started to become interested in the spaces that are being created, the kind of notion of community that accrues to the aggregation of these houses and these different patterns which are born of their own sort of internal logics. And also, you know, keeping in mind projects like Arkazoom, No Stop City, which is, you know, both, you know, kind of satire and satire as a form of critique, obviously. You're cutting me off right at 10. Because this is truly a critical project. But I missed the slide here. This, Utopia now. Okay, I've got a minute to do this. The Citadel. Has anyone heard of the Citadel? Okay, right? The arms factory up in the corner, right? This is a contemporary utopian proposal, right? Planned by this company that wants to make knockoff AR-15s, right? And knockoff Glocks. Right? Everyone in this town has to be armed when they go into the public realm. It's part of the Patriots' agreement. And it's Jeffersonian, Jeffersonian's rightful liberty as its ideal. Glenn Beck, Independence USA. Probably more of you have probably heard about this. He just got skewered on The Daily Show by Jon Stewart. Tonight in the American Dream Labs, I wish I had named myself American Dream Labs. It's brilliant. Oh boy, here we go, Independence USA. It's an entire city. I can go 12, right? Developed around patterns. And here's Jefferson. Both of these people touch on Jefferson as sort of the ideal. Now, Jefferson said, I view great cities as pestilential to the morals, health, and liberties of man. True, they nourish some of the elegant arts, but the useful ones can thrive elsewhere. And less perfection in the others with more health, virtue, and freedom would be my choice. Here's Glenn, given the whole spiel. And I realize with my new haircut, I've kind of got a Glenn Beck thing going. And then very quickly, this is what I'm working on in Freedom Land now, is actually, if I was stealing the plans before, now I'm stealing the facades, and beginning to look at sort of orders of aggregation that are not full unit aggregations, but start to produce different aesthetic effects, while simultaneously producing totally bizarre social orders inside the house. So if you aggregate that way, which is all simple mirroring, but not full house mirroring, you start to get these linked wall structures, essentially. And so this is where Freedom Land is now. It's actually beginning to kind of map a new social order out of an aggregation of these houses in this way. Thank you. Wow. Oh.